Kia ora tātou katoa, ko Nick Manarangi tōku ingoa, I tupu ake au ki Tāmaki Makaurau ki konei, me hokianga te taitokero, e noho ana hau ki konei ki Tāmaki Makaurau me tōku whānau. Hey everybody. I'm on this panel, a bit nervous. I don't typically speak in front of architects and engineers and all you clever people. It's mostly in front of marketers, right? So I'm a digital marketer. I can articulate all that stuff quite easily, but I have been on a bit of a journey, all thanks to Damien, Bob, Catherine, Brandon and Joe, and I've even been to his house, and I've been on this journey just trying to understand this thing, man. This thing is like, it's huge, right? It's huge. And when I look at my own industry, I consider my own industry to be quite complex, and with like moving parts that you can't even touch and feel, you know, it's algorithms. But I feel like I could take any one of you and sit you aside for half an hour and tell you exactly how this world works, how this phone, how your message can get to this thing in half an hour. I can do that. But when I've looked at this thing in the last 12 months, I'm still scratching my head. I'm going, why? Well, like, I share your frustration too, Kath. I'm like, and I'm very impatient, so I want everything done now. Obviously, it's a lot bigger than that. So I just want to kind of share with you guys the last 12 months and just a little bit about my story and where and how everything has pretty much got me to where I am today, like standing in front of you guys. So that's us moving back, me with no beard. That's a 3-month-old who didn't stop crying from Singapore all the way to Auckland. But anyway. And these were the homes that I knew in 10 years living in the UK, right? So those of you that haven't lived in the UK, do you know what this white thing is behind the thing? Any guesses? You basically push a button and the whole house just heats up. Like, I didn't even know what it was, right? It was just like, what the hell is that thing? And, you know, look, those windows there are not double glazed windows. So if you sat on the far corner of that couch, you could feel the air going out, right? So a lot of you guys talking about air tightness and all that sort of, but it was comfortable. It was warm. It turned on at like 6 o'clock in the morning. Baby's room was, like, we didn't have your sensors. We didn't need them. There's no mold there, but look, you know, it wasn't perfect. So those who know that market well, they probably could tell me there's some things that are wrong with it and, you know, didn't care, okay? So kind of bringing it back to where I grew up. So that house there is where I spent a lot of my adolescence and when I grew up, and moved from the country down to the big smoke, and but that's pretty much the house there, and it's a single glaze, no insulation. And does anyone know what a portable unflued gas heater is? Everyone's nodding, right? I didn't even know what it was. It was just a heater. We had this heater in the house for a decade. My grandmother had one. Auntie had one. And what I want to kind of portray to you guys is I feel there's a ginormous knowledge gap between kind of where we are and where we want to be, because we want to design and build these new healthy homes, but for the existing homes, there is this huge gap of, well, how do we heat stuff, right? So I said to my parents, we can't have that anymore, because I'd started doing some research. And you guys all nod your heads. I started doing some research about how bad these things are and all the countries that have banned them. And in some states in Australia, you can't have them either. So that was a bit of an eye-opener. That was about a year ago. And that just pretty much started this journey down this why, how are we here? So I grabbed this online, worldweatheronline.com. And just kind of looking at the temperatures in Rawene, they're not London temperatures. They're not, they're not bad, but they're not great either in terms of how our house was, and how bad our homes were. So I tell the story about how the first winter I woke up in that bed. This is my 3-year-old at the time, for Father's Day breakfast. I'll never forget the day I woke up in this bed and I was cold to my bone. I'd spent 10 years in a central heated home, and then I came back to our home here in Panmure, and I was cold to my bone. I literally thought someone had kidnapped me, dumped me in the garden, and I'd woken up in the garden for some reason. I don't know if you guys have ever had that where you wake up and 1 or 2 seconds later you don't really know where you are. I literally felt like I was outside. And that was pretty much the start of it, the start of the how come we like this. I must have forgotten when I grew up in my 20s that our homes were crap. It's just so many questions that to this day I'm still having with as well. So look, why I'm come from a generation of harden up, put a jumper on. It's not that cold. All the rest of it, but those numbers that you say earlier before, Catherine, are shocking in terms of our health and everything like that. So I'll leave you with this, guys, because it's all great, everything that we've all discussed here today. But for the average person on the street, I've had conversations, right, in the last 2 months of friends and whānau that are putting in, that are doing renos to their homes. How many of them are putting in new windows out of the 5? Anyone? 0. Yeah? So my next door neighbour, it's the fence and the deck, because they've got some money left over. Obviously, they're not going over to Fiji this year. The kitchen's going to get done as well. Cousin just did the garage door, which the last one was rooted. None of them are doing windows, right? 0. It doesn't even come into their consciousness because they've got windows in the house. So why would you put other windows in there? And these are the conversations I'm having, and I'm sitting there just, I'm not articulate enough. I don't know enough like you guys to be able to articulate this stuff. But the knowledge gap is quite huge. So look, it sounds all doom and gloom, but I do want to finish on a positive and also another analogy, because we're huge on analogies tonight. But look, if we can make this thing, right, this thing can, I'm stealing this from you, Damien, if we can make this thing go faster than the wind, right, and lift some cups, surely we would be able to help lift the profile of these homes up. But it's not going to be a one hui thing, it's not going to be one company or one architect or one digital marketer. It's definitely be a kotahitanga, a thing that we need to all do together. So look, really privileged to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and nō reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa.